I can tell you that how I was raised is that we would go to the tailor, we would pick out the fabrics, like, my mom would say, I want a gabardine suit. And so as a young woman, you're getting measured. And so these suits were made for us, and this is at the airport in Guyana, right before we came to America. So we weren't gonna look anything but presentable. And so this was the look. Those were the styles. That's my brother, Tyrone. He's a doctor. He lived in China for some time as a chief of staff of 2 Western medicine hospitals. He now came back to the States and he is in North Carolina. So that's my oldest brother. To the far right or left, depending on how my perspective or yours, is my other brother, Larry. He's Mr. Charismatic. And he died about 14 years ago, right? And it changed some things about me because at that time I learned that I have a disease that I never would have known, even with all of the healthcare and visiting all the doctors that I had, called polycystic kidney disease. So when you see me and there is nothing wrong with me other than the fact that I'm aware that something inside of me doesn't look as good as we would like it to look, right? Everything is functioning how it's supposed to function. And this controls, right? Water, push out. So, and then that's my little sister, Amanda. Amanda is my little sister who's like my mother, right? She they worry. Carla, why are you always, traveling, or why are you here? Like, be careful, because now to them, they see me as being fragile. And that to me is more about them and the fear that's in them than anything that's in me. I've never stopped this forward momentum, this forward propelling movement. So then naturally there's the corporate Carla, right? So I just met, what's your name?
Mary Ellen.
Mary Ellen, who I want you guys to meet because she just moved here from my hometown, New York. And she's new to the area, but we talked, it turns out, guess what? We worked for the same company at the same time in New York. What are the odds of that? So we both worked for a company called Fairchild Publications, but the fact that we introduced ourselves, we started talking, and guess what? We found that we had something in common. So I am so glad you're here. But had this extensive corporate career. I worked for 21 years for a global IT company. I was a senior global account manager handling Time Warner and other large accounts. This particular trip, where my name is on top of the list, was taken in Monte Carlo. So this was a recognition for being the top of the top of the top. The Temptations performed. The roof of the building retracted and fireworks was everywhere. Like that type of, thing. And all expense paid, my best friend and I took my best friend, trip of a lifetime. I remember Grace Kelly. I remember always wanting to go to Monte Carlo. We in St. Petersburg, we have the Grand Prix. It's the home of the Grand Prix. That's where it was, originated. So that's, corporate Carla. Moving along in corporate America, climbing the corporate ladder, but not necessarily feeling fulfilled. And I would always look at it as my pie. What's in my pie? And for me, it was always at lunchtime, even in my 20s, I was feeding the homeless at lunchtime. I would challenge coworkers to join me. If you didn't join me, I would usually say, don't talk to me if you don't join me. I had a corporate workplace program for kids from the Children's Aid Society in New York at that time. And so kids would come to the office and I would spend the afternoon talking to them about skills they had that they didn't even realize they had. I would say, of course you can copy. Come on, let's go to the copy machine. That's how you copy. Now you can add that to your resume. And so for years of doing that, and then I moved here in Florida in 1996. And I had never, everything that they say about Florida when you live in New York, I was like, Florida? And then you get off at the airport and you take the Howard Franklin Bridge. That's it. It should say, if we wanted to sell you in Florida, everybody would just get off at the airport and drive over the Howard Franklin one time. York suspended bridges. And here you have this panoramic view of the water. And water is like us, that's the balance. So we should be connected. So here I am, I'm surrounded by all this water. This is a great place to live. And I continue with my corporate career. And I give birth to my son. So I just did this because this is what parents do. They have that photo of their kids, right, on the desk, and the kids are now like 30 and 40 and this. So we did, back then, we took a lot of vacations. This is my daughter, Jade, and my son, Afai. My son is now 21 years old. He towers over me like here somewhere. And my daughter is 12, going on 13. And today, some of you, I shared a story how my daughter said, what? You're talking about pioneer, Mom. You should be talking about the fact that your grandfather, he was Portuguese, and your grandmother was from Sinai, India, and how, you know, they came together and everybody can come together. I'm like, no. So then, on the way to school this morning, she said to me, she said, Mom, you know, so are you going to take my advice? Because you should take my advice. I was like, no. She said, well, when I'm asked to give a talk, that's what I'm going to talk about. So, if you see her, I say, Jay, she did good. She stuck to the pioneer subject. It was good, right? But these two children, my biggest accomplishment by far. I remember being in my late 20s, early 30s, and saying to myself, if you see me, one of the things I want you to know about me, aside from everything else, aside from I'm a hugger, is that I'm a mother. Nothing replaces that. It's the most beautiful gift. I remember being pregnant with my son and saying, you are loved. That was the first thought, and that was a continued thought. Right? And that I have to raise a person. I have to be responsible for a human being, not a kid, not a baby, but a person who's going to contribute to the world. But these are mine. My daughter's birthday is the day before mine, so it makes sense why she would be having that type of deep conversation with me. And but at some point, I would host in my home these sessions that I would call Success Brunch with women. And the whole point of it was, it would be a room at my house. I would literally rent tables and table linen and chairs, and I would invite about 20 women. I would invite a keynote speaker, and I would ask one simple question to everyone, right? And women would have this feeling of like, why are you doing this? You're not charging us, and you're having us here. And you know, a lot of things that we do in life, people think, because it's natural to think, that it's about you. But most of that was about me. It was about me asking you so that I could answer for myself, what would you rather be doing? But before we get there, and what I was answering at that time, we're here to talk about pioneers. And we're in this rich community called St. Petersburg, Florida, where there's no shortage of African American pioneers that led the way, that paved the way, that was here before. And here are three that I'm going to share with you today that you should know. We hear about the Dr. Kings and the Rosa Parks. We had those same people here. And as a girl from Guyana who lived in New York, who came to St. Petersburg 21 years ago, I learned this history within the last 4 years, embraced it as if it was my own history, because it is. And come to learn about Elder Jordan. This was a freed slave that moved here and went ahead to build the Manhattan Casino. If you see information about the Manhattan Casino, this is the guy who built that. The Dr. Carnegie Woodson African American History Museum that some of you may have visited or should visit, that building, that land, that Jordan Park, all of that, that was land that this freed slave donated to the city of St. Petersburg to build housing. During the Great Depression, this was the same pioneer who bailed the city out and loaned them money. Pioneer.
Hi, Mrs. Carla.
This was in the 1920s. Fanny Ponder. So some of these names are like, who, what? So there's a place in St. Pete called the Ponder House. It's a historic building, and Fanny Air Ponder moved here to St. Petersburg around the 1920s, around 1925 or so. And she founded and had this house built for the National Council of Negro Women. That house has been rehabbed and redone, and is still sitting there today. But it made the National Council of Negro Women one of the first chapters in America to have their own building that's still standing today. So, Fanny Ponder, pioneer. And then, this is one that we're seeing more and more of, and you will have no choice but to get to know, because they're about to rename that shortest interstate that you can get off going into downtown after this woman. She was the first African-American woman to be on city council here in St. Petersburg. She was also the first black female attorney in Pinellas County, and the first black elected official in Tampa Bay. So see that Wimbush, pretty soon you'll see that that interstate, that short span, is named after her. So she's a pioneer, and Senator Darrell Roussan is the one that fought for that and is doing that. Then there's me. You know, Carla Bristol, the 11-year-old that moved from Guyana because my parents moved to New York, to Brooklyn. I shared with somebody earlier that Bob Devin Jones had a scone, and it turns out it was a guava scone. I love guava. And I talked about things like fruits like